Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday night's edition of Paranormal Question of the Day. Be right back right after the intro. And we are back. Hopefully, hopefully everybody's doing okay today. And just waiting for Taryn to come back. She was there just a little bit. She's just still getting set up, but that's okay. And like I said, we got Amityville on the mind today, and we're gonna kind of go through some stuff and whatnot. There we are.
I'm here.
Yep, she's here.
I'm coming.
She's coming.
Sorry.
And we got Tom. Hey, Tom, welcome to the show. She's just getting all set up, and so Amityville is on our minds today, and we'd like to hear your insights on how you feel about that location and what do you think went down that night with the Feos and stuff like that. But before we get you almost fall over.
Almost.
That's not been good.
Not at all.
All right. I'm gonna go full screen here, so it's a little easier. There we go. Holy shit, I am really dark. That's all right. You don't need to see my face anyway.
Let me see.
I'll back it up here. There you go. That's better. I'll just stay like this.
See, when I'm not in my, if I'm not in my, I don't have my light.
Now you look like you're being interrogated. Gotta get that light shaking there, right, Tom? Just get that light shaking. There you go. That's better. That's better. So let's kind of break things down a little bit from the beginning. I think a lot of things happen, and this is for a reason. When we talk about Amityville, I think what happens is that we start at the murders that the DeFeos with Butch DeFeo committed. And that's from where we start from there. We go to the Lutz family, and then we start talking to as far as down the road, like what's all happened further on as the house has progressed. So what I like to do is start kind of from the beginning. And this is kind of stuff that I have gathered through information as way back in 2020 and that stuff. And so what has happened? Okay. Back in the day when we had tribes and all that stuff fight each other and stuff. And we had Winston, the Salem witch trials and all that stuff. So John Ketchum was in Salem and he got casted out. And so where he ended up being is making his way to Amityville. So now you got Ketchum there because he's in hiding basically. And then now you have these two tribes. Okay, these two Indian tribes are fighting against each other and all that stuff on that land. So in the land, it's huge, a huge piece of land. And so to kind of break into some of the movies that bring up the tribes and all that stuff, which in some of these movies do say like, oh, there's like an underground layer of the barrier mounds and stuff like that that kind of go underneath the house and create all this stuff with the house and the issues with the house. So now with these two tribes that were going on against each other, of course, one of them defeated the other. And supposedly John Ketchum has died amongst those the battles going on. So supposedly he is buried somewhere in that realm, in that area of that on that land. And then the Indians, or I should say tribal Indians, I want to be correct, So the ones defeated the other ones. What in their mind is for like I want to say ritual in kind of way. It's like so the bad tribe that they defeated, they buried them face down. So in their
Mm.
way, they were the evil tribe. So we're gonna bury these uh tribal members from the other
What was
Indian.
that?
What's that?
Was that like a little sound effect you did?
No, nah, not yet.
I thought I heard something.
It's probably my kid in the background.
No. Oh, maybe it was. I don't know. It sounds like air or something. I don't even.
Oh,
Yeah,
uh,
I heard that when they were buried upside down, it was like a sign of like,
disrespect.
yeah.
Yeah. So and now keep in mind we have the river that's there. I forgot what the name of the river is that they call it there. Um, and it's not the Atlantic Ocean, but it does tie in at some point, I think. So now when you have that ritual where they bury the tribal Indians face down, now I don't know how many of them have maybe since then maybe fallen into the river part and maybe still in there at some point. Um, and even then, that kind of makes that whole land really like sacred with all that stuff happened. And properties don't forget like houses don't forget when there's murders that went on, correct? Because
Well,
it's such a distress, you know?
I mean, I think I think given the right circumstances, um, anything can hold, I don't know what you wanna call it,
I'll just say
energy
energy.
or, that's what I think residual is just a recording. So I think anything can hold that, like take for example, I was at Hell House this Saturday,
Mhm,
and I think that, there were, I had my friend Sabrina with me, and she's she's gifted,
mhm,
psychic medium. She's very she's empathic. She can pick up on things. And in certain areas, she was feeling a heaviness, but she said that it was more from she felt that it was more from the energy or like the people that are going through certain parts of the attraction, where they get scared,
mhm.
that fear kind of is stuck there. It's not necessarily spirit energy, but maybe, over time of, of all these people going through this haunted attraction, that's being kind of left behind. Those that is
Yeah,
what
we leave our imprints when we go
right.
through.
Imprints. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Yeah,
Imprints is a better word than energy. Imprints. Thank you, Darren.
yeah. I mean, it's just like how our cats are. Our cats leave imprints on us because they just they become our person,
Yeah.
so to speak. Um, so and that's the way how I feel about the land with the Indian tribes, and with John Ketchum being there. I think they left their imprint on that land and all that stuff that went down. And who knows? At some point, maybe they might get something out there and try and see if they can find his body in his grave. Um, unless they, say, "Oh, well, he's from Salem, so we're gonna just, so to speak, bury him back in Salem." You know, um, so that's what supposedly has been done on that land. Now, if you fast forward a little bit, at that point, there was already a house built on that property. I think way before all these big houses were built alongside Long Island and stuff. And so what happened with that house, there was already, from what I read, that there was domestic abuse and domestic violence already on that house. Now, with the everything that happened before all that, with the Indians and John Ketchum and all that. Now, how much of that house captures that energy of or imprint of everything that happened on that land, so to speak, that made that such a trouble household. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're already got trouble brewing in that house as that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So Now back in, we'll fast forward a little bit now to 1924 when the Mohanahans, I can never say that name right, but hopefully I did. They purchased the land, and when they did purchase the land, it was split off. So now the land has been cut down to a certain size.
Well,
And the house,
it's like a normal. I've never been there. I've never seen the house, but
Mhm.
it's on the corner. Is it on a corner lot?
I want to believe it say it is. I have not did the aerial view of it, so to speak. It's been a while since I've seen
From
like
pictures,
the
it
whole
looks
area.
like it's on a corner, but I don't know. I've
I,
never
I
been
think it's on the corner at some point. Yes, I think it is.
there. Okay.
And so the way how that land is that house had to be sideways. It couldn't be like a normal how a house is front facing. It's got to be
So it's
sideways.
facing us. The front door is through the side, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that's the way the house was laid out. Now, prior that for that house to be there, the Mohanahans actually had that house that was there before physically moved 2 blocks away.
Mm.
So now you got that house being moved 2 blocks away, which I think everything that went on in that house, whatever, dissipated, and I don't think anything more really happened with that house being moved because now it's away from all the imprinted on the from the land and everything else that's gone there, and the energy put in that house for whatever reason was going on might have dissipated. So now, so we're just kind of going up in history. So the house is actually done in 1927. So John and his wife, I can't remember what his wife's name is. I got a sheet here, but I don't want to cuss in half here because I don't want to, um, hide ourselves here.
Well, can't you
Um,
put us off to the side?
I've tried that before,
Hey,
and
let
I
me
just
see.
let's see.
Like, what if we do this? What if we do that? Oh, no, that doesn't do it. There's only two of us, so
Right. Give me a minute here. Whoops, I'm sorry. There we go.
because like if the two
Uh,
of us go off to the side, I mean that's not
oh,
bad.
actually, that's not bad.
I mean you
Okay,
can't
so
see it.
it's pretty small, but maybe on Facebook Live they could probably see it pretty good. Um,
I
so this is kind of like the timeline here that I'm following off of, and this is where I got my information from on the internet. And so if when you follow this timeline here, it shows that the actual first death in that house was actually the first owner of John in 1939. So he is the original first death in the house.
this was before the house was moved,
This is when the house is built. The house is fully built in 1927.
right?
John only lasted 12 years in that house. He died
Mhm.
in 1939.
Okay.
So now it's just his wife and kids and all that stuff that are left besides John. So he is the first reported death in that house as we speak. So now when you break that all down and we get to the DeFeos, and that's when all like the other 6 murders happen besides John just dying as I think he had
Natural causes probably.
natural causes. Yeah. So so now you officially have 7 people that have died in that house.
Right.
So now at that point with John being the first one to die in that house, do you kind of wonder if there's some kind of like energy imprint from him and his family being in that house, from him dying in that actual house, left in the house, as before the DeFeos moved in. And, at this point, what were the Mahanahans into? Okay. We don't know if they were into anything, if they're into the spiritual world of stuff. None of that stuff is really documented as to what they were in. So far as this point, they're just a regular family that moved in, built the house, and moved in. So now where it gets tricky is with the DeFeos.
Hmm.
So at this point, Butch and Ronald, they called their youngest son Butch. They already were a family that was dysfunctional because they're part of Like his dad was part of the mob with the automobile shop that he had going on and stuff and whatnot. And they're an Italian family too. So and a lot of back then in those days, the Italians were part of a lot of the mobs, correct?
Yeah.
So so I think that it was fair to say that the owner had a reason to fear that something at some point might happen in that house, whether it's him that happens to him or whatever happens to his family. Because in all the movies that I've seen, and one particular, I think it's probably a Tubi TV original, is they're saying that he kept a lot of his money in his house locked away.
Mm.
So that could be a reason for fear of
Well,
people coming.
a lot of people did that back in the day.
Right, right.
You
And
know what
I
I
can
mean?
understand that too.
My grandmother did that. My great grandmother did that. They hid money. You know what I mean? I mean, that was normal. That was like a normal thing to do. But um, so I just wanted to put that out there. I mean,
Well,
hiding money. I think just being a part of, when you're in that. Actually, I'm not. I can't say because I've never been a part of the mafia. But I
mhm,
mean, when you watch documentaries, movies, this and that, all of it, all around, you naturally the people that are in the mafia watch their backs. So yeah,
right.
they're gonna have, even Tony Soprano, who I um, throughout that whole show, he was watching his back. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So to live with that anxiety all the time, for sure,
right,
you know.
right. So, I mean, right there, like you said, he's already have that anxiety of having that money in that house already. Not to mention everything that has gone on. Butch is heavily on drugs back in the day, what was it? Acid and cocaine and what was the big drug back in that time? I'm trying to think.
LSD.
Yeah, that was probably one too. Heroin. I think he was addicted on heroin a lot, I
What
think.
what time frame are we talking?
We're talking like in the 70s
Yeah, I think
when
it
the
was
murders were done.
mostly acid and cocaine maybe, is
Yeah.
like back then what, and marijuana. I mean, people have always,
Oh, yeah. Back since
I
the
mean,
60s.
yeah, pot's been, been around for a
Right.
while.
So, now with that, you already got, like I said, dysfunctional family. Butch and Ronald, um, were already at each other's throats. Not to mention now you got, like, the little one, John. I think he was, what, 6? 7, I wanna say?
Mhm.
Um, I think they call him John Boy or something like that, I can't remember. And then you have the other boy and then the 2 sisters. So, at this point, on the day of the murders, there's already a tension going on in the house. Ronald and Butch already had a fight in the pool room that they
Yeah.
had in there,
They had a fist
and
fight, correct?
yeah,
Was it a
fist
fist
fight
fight?
in the pool room,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep, and so Ronald didn't really do anything because he was I think more or less, I think he was afraid of his father to do anything, you know, and so to
Well,
speak, I think
he wasn't too scared.
well, what I think would happen too is, and this is partial to some of the movies, that come out that the oldest daughter, uh, walked in after the fight was done and it's like, "Hey, you know, why don't you do something about it?" You know, and call him a chicken, this and that, and so forth. So I think that kinda at that point egged Butch on, to go do something. But at some point they feared that he actually did hold a gun up to when he was laying in bed and just didn't pull the trigger because the sister came in and it's like, "Oh, you're so chicken. You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it." So to speak, pressure him. So at that point, I think he walks out, goes and gets high, like they normally do. When you're under pressure, under that stress, I think the only way they could do back in that day is just to go get high. And I think it was what happens. He came back and decided to grab the shotgun that he used, which what was the name of that shotgun? Trying to think of the name of the shotgun.
I don't know. Was it in your notes?
Probably was in my notes. I'm going off the top of my mind here because it's easier for me to do that. But anyway, it's one of the shotguns that he had. Uh, it was able to be heard, 2, 3 blocks away.
Well, I think any shotgun would be able to be heard, to be honest with
Yeah, well, yeah, it could, yes, absolutely.
you,
But
you
I
know?
think this is more of an aggressive shotgun that he had that actually was able to hear a lot further away. Now, when you got a house next door, okay, so to speak, and you're going around and you're killing your family, this and that, and which in my opinion, okay, this is strictly, like I said, I put a disclaimer on the thing before we aired today, is this is all our opinions. Um, I think the daughter helped out with the murders
Mhm.
because she was already pissed off already about the youngest daughter, that she was getting so much more attention versus her. So she was already disgruntled about all that stuff.
Well, can I just say something really quick?
Go ahead.
There obviously was some psychological issues within this family,
Mhm.
because,
He had the mother and father. The father beat the mother a lot.
so he's abusive, right?
Mhm.
Reportedly abusive. So naturally, children are impressionable at a young, very early age. So obviously, there were mental instabilities throughout the entire family.
Absolutely.
Whether that be depression, whether that be schizophrenia, whether that be, whatever. And then you add in, I guess, drugs is what you were saying. You add
Mhm.
that in, that makes everything worse. But
Big ball of
mental
problems.
instability, it just, people to be able to, I don't think I could ever be jealous enough of a sibling to want to
Mhm.
kill my parents. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right, right.
or
And
egg
that's
one of my siblings on to do it.
right,
So there's got to be some disconnect somewhere.
right.
Um, and I honestly, okay, go ahead. Sorry, you go ahead. You're doing the timeline good, so go
Well,
ahead.
I'm just
I just
saying that
wanted, I
it's
just wanted to throw that out there. I
oh,
mean,
no, that's fine because it's all there because it's showing itself, you know, being disgruntled, being abusive, drug use heavily. Everything is influenced to everything for a big wake up problems to happen. So my main thing is before we go any a little bit further is that the what I really want to point out is when we talk about Amityville, we start at the murders and then we move forward to the Lutzes and then we move forward to the rest of the residents that have been there, like 10, 11, 12 people that have now occupied this location. And we never talk of what happened beforehand, like the land, the Indian tribes, John Ketchum, all that's all relatable to that property for things that go wrong and stirs everything up. The house being moved, the original house being moved, so to speak. So none of that is all talked about. It
well, if
just
it was
starts at the
moved
murder.
though, if it was moved though, that would kind of take away what happened on the land prior.
Yeah. But then you also what I want to bring into point is that who was the first person to die in the location? You know, that's one thing that's not brought up is there's already been one person that's already died in the house
But
before.
that also doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a haunting because somebody dies in a location, right?
And that very well could be true as well. But it's just one thing I wanted to point out that for those who are big into the Amityville stuff, like I'm big into it too, but I like to look at all the prior stuff that happened before everything that led up to what actually happened. So this is just a lot of the stuff that people don't know about, didn't realize what happened, and all that stuff. So that's
Right.
kind of one of the main things I wanted to bring up in
Mhm.
this to Amityville talk, just to kind of people realize that there is already a wake before everything happened with the DeFales.
Mhm.
So there's actually a big beginning. The DeFales are the middle, the plot with the Lutzes. And then you got the ending, so to speak, right now, till something else comes out where the rest of these people that have moved into this house are claiming that nothing's happened.
Right.
So I'm just giving a beginning, middle, plot, and end type deal.
Hmm.
Um, so like I said before, I believe in my mind that Butch, Ronald DeFeo Jr., and Dawn, the oldest daughter, they both are in cahoots of murdering the family. And then
But
she turned
was
she
killed
turned
though.
on him, and then he ended up killing her.
Right. Well, where was she found? Do you know?
She was found in her bedroom. So there was like a struggle.
Wasn't everybody else found in their bedrooms?
Everybody else was found in their bedrooms face down, which is the unique part that everybody was found shot in the back face down. But they say
He could
I
have
think it
flipped
was
them
the mother
over.
or father moved twice. So I think one of them each got a second shot. So the mother and father, one of those two got a second shot because one of them moved after they got shot.
Hmm.
The other kids in the family, one shot to the back, and they were done. So, and it's a sad story to hear all that happening,
Well, because you really don't know what happened.
right? Because we're
You
not
don't
there,
know. You don't know. You don't know if he told them turn over
right? Right.
and turn over on your stomach. You have no idea if he moved them.
Or how do you know if one got up to heard actually the shotgun go off, got up and tried to hide in their bed, and end up getting caught type of deal.
I don't think that everybody in that house, inside the house, didn't hear shots.
Yeah.
So I think because he had a gun, he had control. So even if somebody got up and came out, he said, "Go back to your room, lay on your bed." Followed them into the room, told them to lay on their stomachs,
Hmm.
or whatever. I don't think they slept through all that. There's no way.
But
Right,
the thing
right, but a
is,
car backfires outside scares the shit out of me when I'm sleeping, you know what I mean? Like, somebody's using a shotgun in my house, I'm gonna you're gonna hear that.
but do you believe in like, okay, now this is where the paranormal stuff comes into play, like paranormal, like you're in a zone where all sound is lost. Like you're in a paranormal time zone, like in a different dimension, so to speak, where nothing could hear the outside as to what happened. Because you would think that the next door people would hear that shotgun go off, but didn't say anything or do anything. Apparently,
They
they
could
didn't
have but
know
they
it went
could have
off.
thought it was a car, they could have
Right.
thought it was fireworks, because outside of that, it
Mhm.
just sounds like a loud bang.
Or do you feel like at some point, okay, when we do our paranormal investigations,
Mhm.
okay, we experience sometimes a loss of time. Time has been lost between point A to point C, and what happened to point B.
Right.
Where were
I personally have never experienced that, but I know people have,
right. So that's what I'm saying. Was there a loss of time
or they say they
between
have.
the murders, and then when he actually realized he did something, freaked out, left the house, went down to the bar saying, "Hey, help me, help me, help me," blah, blah, blah. I killed my family, such street, or somebody killed my family. What he said, I think he said somebody killed my family. Um, and then returning back later to the scene of the crime. So in my mind, I'm thinking that there was a loss of time where the gunshots went off, nobody heard it. It was a paranormal moment, and
Well,
that what's that?
David said it wasn't a shotgun, it was a 35 caliber Marlin, a 336 hunting
That's
rifle.
that's what it is. Yeah. I knew it was somewhere. I mixed that up. So thanks for
Yeah.
the clarification. Sorry about that.
Thank you,
But
David.
that's what I feel. This is, like I said, disclaimer. This is my opinion. This is her opinion of what happened of the situation. And I think there was a moment, time, a paranormal time loss, that when the time of the events that happened, that
What
everything.
time did it happen? What time of night?
Oh, 3:15, I think it was.
In the morning.
Yes, because I think that's when George kept up waking up at 3:15 in the morning all the time.
There was also a 38 pistol found in the river, believed to have been a second gun. See, at 3:15 in the morning, the world is asleep. Most people are sleeping.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you
can
think
be in a dead sleep.
right, so you
Yes.
think, okay, first shot goes off, maybe another house might hear it. Somebody in another house might hear it in the vicinity. They're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay, well, that was like a car, whatever." But, like, 3:15 in the morning, I mean, and people are, like, dead asleep, like,
Not this guy.
well, not him, he was a raging lunatic, you know?
I'm just getting up for work and all that stuff, but,
Oh,
I mean, that's
you. I thought
not this guy, but I'm just,
I thought you
and
were
that's where what I bring into play is, like, paranormal time loss, because we all experience it at some point in time, and you will at some point in time, Taryn, that you'll notice that, "Hey, we just started investigating at 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden, shit, it's, like, midnight. What happened in all those hours in between?" Like paranormal time of loss of time. So to me, that's what happened during the murders, which I believe that Dawn was part of. There was a struggle with those two in her bedroom in which she ended he ended up killing her. So
so there was, like,
that's the
a
time of
confirmed
the
there was a
murders that I've
confirmed sh
come up with.
there was a
Sorry?
con there was a well, there was a confirmed struggle?
That's what I have gathered, yes. There
Okay.
was a confirmed struggle. Others have believed that he was all by himself. There's others that say that no, the mob came in and did it and all this stuff because, like I said, money being held in the house that they're going after the money that was being owed at some point, probably. Um, but in my mind, and this is what I believe, and you all can think different opinions because your opinion is welcome because we all weren't there, so we all don't know what actually happened.
I think he was
So,
batshit crazy,
yep.
and I think he was either either he had a schizoaffective reaction to something, or he was crazy. Maybe it was years of abuse, and he finally had it and snapped, um, and didn't wanna leave maybe he didn't wanna leave his siblings with some crazy kook that he knows is abusing everybody in the house.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's I mean, like, I don't think when I know he had said the house made me do it, but I think that was just him trying to take the blame off of himself for what he did. Um, I don't think anything paranormal made him do it. I think it had everything to do with a mental type of an issue, whether it's a breakdown, a snap, like I said, after years of abuse, whether he thought, I'm not going to let my mom and my siblings, you know, go like, continue to live life and be abused by this man, or maybe he's just was, like I said, just, I mean, people do it. I mean, look at the Idaho guy.
Yeah.
He didn't even know them. You know what I mean? Like I mean, look at Wayne Gacy, psycho. You know what I'm saying? Like it just there's people that mothers that kill their children. You know what I mean? Like because they snap, they have PTSD. You know what I mean? Or they have like
Mhm.
not PTSD, post.
Well, look at Agin, for instance. He was okay until his mother died, and he went crazy.
Yeah, yeah, you snap. So
Yeah.
this I just want to say something. We have Scotland checking in,
Hey, Scotland.
and we have Indonesia checking in. Hi,
Hey,
Sam.
Indonesia. How you doing? Welcome to the show. So, I mean, this, like I said, this is something that's never really talked a lot about. Um, and all the stuff, like I said before, beginning, middle, and plot end
So
type of
so
deal.
I will say that I believe that the murders were what were mentally driven, not paranormally driven. And I had a very long conversation with Christopher Lutz. It was probably about an hour.
Which goes by a last different name now, doesn't he?
Now he's Quarantino, yes.
Yeah.
This was back, I want to say this was probably back in 2000 and 13.
Mhm.
Our conversation was about an hour and a half long, and he was starting to come out to tell the story about what happened while he was there.
Mhm.
For anybody that doesn't know, Christopher Quarantino slash Lutz was the youngest son of the Lutz family that moved in and moved out in 45 days.
Was it
Because
28 days? 28 days, I thought. 28 days.
was it? I thought it was 45. So,
That's where they got the thing for 28 Days Haunted, the theory.
so Christopher waited for his mother to pass away because, George Lutz was his stepfather. But waited for his mom to pass away to come out because he didn't want his mother to. Now, of course, this is him telling me this. So
Probably doesn't want
again,
her to relive all of it.
wasn't there. This is coming from him. You know, when you think about moving into a house where 7 people were murdered, naturally everybody is going to think that, oh my gosh, what could there be something? And DeFeo claiming that the house made him do it.
Which actually string a lot of things beyond that. Several murders happened that say, "Hey, the devil made me do it," which the Conjuring's version of "the devil made me do it" brings that out a little bit.
So upon talking with Chris, Chris basically, said, we moved into this house and, we didn't have time to really settle in. Because he said, my stepfather was in the basement performing satanic rituals. He was drawing things on the floor and trying to call in demons.
And this is what we call the Red Room.
I don't know. I don't know where this was at. This is what he told me. He said his stepfather was in the basement. He's like, the movie makes him out to be this hero, like he saved us and got us out of there. But he's like, really? He was the one that put us in that position. He said that, all that stuff that the movie portrayed, there were things happening in the house, but he blames his stepfather. He says, my stepfather was doing these things. Like, if there were souls trapped because they were murdered there, right? And so you already have that open door,
Yeah, and then you have the
him
things
coming
that
in and doing this stuff,
the Indian tribe
naturally,
warfare.
yeah, the energy in that house is going to be so negative,
Mhm.
And it's going to come from not just one person, not just 2 people, but it's going to come from everybody in that house.
Mhm.
And
And
I
who's to say when they built that house that with the Indian burial mounds being there, that they just, back then archaeologists probably weren't really around to look at the ground and just say, "Go ahead and build," you know?
Oh yeah, there's stuff built on top of
Yeah, look,
cemeteries all over the place.
right.
But I think it was, if there was anything negative, paranormal, anything like that, I think it was attached to George Lutz. That was his first name, right?
George.
George
Yep.
Lutz. Okay. George Lutz. And I think, he was the one that kind of created this facade that was in this house, that, all this bad stuff was happening. And, I think he was the one that, based on what Christopher said,
Right.
I, again, wasn't there,
And
and then,
Dan's got a complete different story.
huh?
Dan's got a complete different story.
But
Daniel
it's
Lutz.
right. And that's the crazy thing, is that
Mhm.
we know this. Like, me and you could be in the same room and
Mhm.
we can witness the same thing, but we may tell the story different
Right.
because it's all about how you are perceiving
Whichever
what
comes
is
out
happening,
better sounding.
or it's how you perceive it.
Right. Exactly.
Christopher was the youngest one in the house, so
Mhm.
he was young. So to him, whatever's happening probably was on a much larger scale than what it was for Dan.
Right.
You know, when a little kid
Because Dan had a
describes,
lot more problems with his father George than I think Christopher did.
they and I know, like, from what Chris said, none of them liked him. He was not a nice person.
Yeah.
So I mean, anything. I forget where I was going with that. I was going to say something.
Well, just with him doing all the stuff in the basement and all that stuff.
But when you take a kid and they say, "Oh, I see a witch in the corner,"
Mm-hmm.
it may look like a witch to a little kid because they don't know any better.
Right.
They see this weird thing and they just describe it as a witch. But if I saw it, it might be just this old raggedy woman with a weird hat on, and to me, it's an old raggedy woman, but to a child, it's a witch
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know any better,
Right.
So it's all about perception. And the families that came after them saying nothing's happened in the house,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, what if there was anything there, George took it with him.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, so speaking, when they moved, they had the black cloud that followed them
so that's what I was going to say.
out west.
So I will tell you, Chris did say when he finally moved, he moved to LA and moved into an apartment. I don't quote me on the LA part. I can't remember where he said he moved to, somewhere out west.
Yep.
And he said he finally found a place where he felt comfortable and, this and that. And he goes in the basement, and in the basement are all these Amityville books.
Mm.
He's like, I felt like I couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, everywhere you turn around, like, there's an Amityville movie, there's an Amityville book, there's an Amityville this, that. One of the
still make them too.
One of the sisters joined a convent.
Yeah.
She's nowhere to be found. She's in a convent somewhere, but so they definitely experienced something.
Right.
They definitely went through shit, whether that be, they were at the mercy of their stepfather, and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound like mom had much of a backbone. And that's no dig at her, but,
Right.
I mean, I grew up in a household where, with my stepfather, it wasn't a very good environment. He wasn't conjuring up demons in the basement. You know what I mean? But, when you're in that environment, you almost feel powerless, because you have this person who is so dominant and so, instilling fear. You look at, those kids probably looked at their mother and she was afraid. So if she's afraid, they're going to be afraid.
Right. Because there's no hope, basically.
Right. So, and I think, he bit off more than he could chew, whatever he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually just decided that he did too much and he was out.
Yeah. So, and that brings up stuff like, trying to, backtrack to go to the fail, Ronald Jr. that went to prison after all this happened and stuff. And to say that he has changed his story so many times
Mm-hmm.
being in prison. So at that point in time, it's like, okay, is this true? Is this not true? What really actually happened? In the last couple of years before he passed away in 2021, there's still kind of a confusion as to what actually happened because he really didn't really spit it out very much. I think.
Yeah, nobody's gotten. He's
I think
not.
he was tight-lipped. He was trying to keep the pot stirring, so to speak. At one point, he said, "Oh, I did it, and nobody else did. It's my fault." But then at this point, "Oh no, I was, possessed and all this stuff." And so, who's to know what Ronald Jr.'s actual story is and how true it is?
I don't think it. I honestly think his story changed so many times because he really probably doesn't know what happened because I think he was
Too
on
high up on
drugs.
some.
Yeah, I think he was
Yeah.
on drugs, and I think he had a mental break. I
Yeah.
think he mentally lost his shit, obviously, because no sane person would do that.
Right.
No sane person would do that.
Yeah. And,
So
and then now as you move forward with the Lutzes coming, the family, now the thing with George Lutz coming out about him delving into spiritual stuff, the
the
Ouija
occult
board in
stuff.
the basement and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That came out later on. I want to say within the last 5 years or so. Has it been now?
Well, like I said, I met Chris at Phenomenology in Gettysburg, probably 2013.
Okay,
And that's when he started to tell the story about all that because his
so
mom, he was
probably
waiting
just
for his
didn't
mother.
make its way out to the public till further down.
So he didn't want his mother because after that happened, his stepfather turned around and I don't know if they're still involved in a legal battle because of that, but he turned around to sue him. And so
Well,
there's a big, huge legal, there was a big, huge legal thing going on because of what Chris came out and said, you know, this is what really went down, and, because there was a point in time, I think, in history where people are like, oh, they're just trying to make money.
well, and the thing is, and that is true. People did think, oh, they're making a lot of money. Now, when the book came out and all that stuff, they actually didn't make hardly anything off the book. They didn't get nothing hardly anything from the movies, so they didn't get rich of anything from any of this stuff. So and that's the puzzling thing. Like, oh, they're out just to get the money, just get the money, but they really didn't get hardly anything out of the book and the movie. So,
That we
um,
know of, right? I mean,
well, I'm sure it's documented somewhere. I didn't go that far digging into that stuff. I'm just trying to, be more basic with this and kind of explain a little bit of how we feel and our opinions are on this subject.
but I will say this: the Lutz family, like as well as the DeFay, but the Lutz family definitely went through something because talking talking to Chris that day, you could
Hmm.
tell he was affected by something. You know
All
what I
right.
mean? You could tell that there was this just heaviness that he has carried around with him for years, whether no matter what that was. But you could tell that, and he forced, he said, once I come out with this, this is gonna, my step. He knew his stepdad was gonna do it. That's why he waited for his mom to pass away before he came out with really what his stepfather was doing in the
Yeah.
house.
And and since now both the Lutzes are passed, um, it's gonna be hard to piece a lot of that stuff together now because now they're not around. They can't speak for themselves, you know, and you got Chris and Dan still around, and it'd be interesting if we could get both Chris and Daniel on at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen.
No, I don't think it probably won't either. Um, I would love to have Dan on, because and just kind of hear his side of things. Because I
Yeah,
don't think that gets said a lot, except for he's got the specials on Tubi TV and Netflix and all that stuff. Amityville Horror, that's where he's in.
right. So
The
he's
cast is
making
fine.
money. He's making money. So we
He's
can't
making money
say
on some
that.
of this stuff, yes.
Right. So we can't say they haven't made any money off of it, right? I mean,
I think it's the parents' side. I don't think they really made anything from it.
mhm.
Maybe later down the road, who knows? But um, so with the DeFeo and all that stuff, like I said, I'm getting back with the DeFeos. And the way how Ronald was in jail and changing the stories and all that stuff. So now we'll move on to the Lutzes where they get in this house for less amount of money than it actually should have been, you know. And the house really back in the day didn't sell for a lot. I think the most it ever sold was like 125,000 after the Lutzes, and then from there on it progressed to get more expensive. Um, and to me with the Ouija board and all that stuff that came on later on. That since I was told about that. Um,
He's saying hi.
Hello.
He might go.
And with all that stuff, that's where they're experiencing with 28 days haunted. theory of being in one location for 28 days type of deal. And if you can survive it in a haunted location, has to be haunted, obviously. Um, so the Lutzes, they had their tried and their tribulations. Did all that really occur? Did he actually go in the basement? I don't know. That's to me, that's the thing. We're not there. We don't know what happened. We're basing off of Chris. We're basing off of Daniel and all that stuff. But we got the movie, which is a whole different spin because we know how Hollywood likes to do things with movies.
Mhm.
So we all know about the Lutz story. Okay. This actually triggered on from the DeFeos to The Devil Made Me Do It, so to speak, the Conjuring movie. That's when the Warrens come into the court cases, dealing with possessions and all that stuff to get that going, which that had a hard time picking up off the ground, so to speak. So now we get to the phase where you have all these different families moving into the location. So now this is where everything gets like pushed back, because this family moved into the house, nothing happened. This family moved in the house, nothing happened. This family moved in, gutted the whole place, changed the look of the location, nothing happened.
Right.
And now it's up for sale again. Who's to
Darren,
say?
Darren, why aren't you buying it?
Because I don't have $1.7 million that it's
They're
asking for.
selling that house for 1.7. See, this is what I have a problem with, right? They're living there, and I don't care. I don't care. But they're living there, and you're not even allowed to take a picture outside of that house,
I
right?
don't think you're even allowed to be across the street from the house.
No, right? Which it's a free country. I can
Mm.
stand wherever I want in the middle of a street. So I
You
don't
would
know
think
how they've
so.
made that. I mean, I don't know if they own part of the street. I have no idea.
That could be. That could be.
But for them to say that nobody can be out there and then to use it to their advantage to be able to sell a house for 1.7 million,
Yeah.
they can kiss it.
Well, and the last time the house was bought was for 350,000.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're selling it because it's the Amityville. That's what.
Well,
That's
they're
what.
marketing for that as well, yes. But the
Yes,
thing is, too, is now the place has been totally gutted, rebuilt from the ground up. All what who how much they actually changed the inside. I know that the bottom part was all gutted. Did they change the upstairs? I don't know.
well, if it was all gutted and totally remodeled, I'm assuming. I mean,
I'm
and
I'm
maybe that.
assuming the upstairs got redone as well. But for not allowing us to get in there when it's like,
Well, not
if
even
the
that,
other
but to
family
be,
has moved out and it's still sitting there waiting to get sold. Yeah.
but to be like dicks, like you can't even take a picture outside of the house. Like you bought that house knowing the attention that it gets.
Oh
Who
yeah.
cares if somebody takes a picture outside of it? I would
And
fuck
that
with people. I would be in the windows like this. You know what I mean? Or like
well, if you look
waving.
at Google, if you go to Google and you search up the house, the actual house next door is blurred out. So the houses don't want to be even in the picture with the same location.
Like, and then I don't understand that.
It's the same thing with their Exorcist house, you know. So, which is just outside of St. Louis, the original property. The film was actually done in Philadelphia. Um,
Yeah, like Jamie has a good question. Like what if I wanted to look at it? They're gonna say
mhm.
nobody can book a showing because
Yeah, I mean, are they gonna charge you to come in for a showing?
yeah, like are they gonna like what? Like I
But
know
if
there's
I
a
want to
house.
fly out there and take a look at it myself, just because even though I don't have $1.7 million to go buy it, but hey,
But
it's
see, I
free
think
reign. I
houses
want to
like
go look
that,
at it. What's that?
houses like that, I think they do a credit check prior to you coming to see if you can afford the house. To
Oh, I'm
see,
sure they do.
yeah, there's a house in Jersey that's being sold for like $25 million. I was like, well, so
Mhm.
you to book a showing, you have to give them, you have to do, they do like a credit check, background check, they do all kinds of stuff before you can even go through there because they want serious inquiries only, and if you have to be able to afford to buy this house.
Absolutely. Not to mention the water property tax too.
But I'm just
But it's all high stakes to go and buy a property like that. If I would have went in there and say, okay, I got this money, I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna not use it as a living quarters. I'm gonna turn around and use it as
well, you'd
like
have
a
to get it zoned.
I had to rezone it and use it as a paranormal hotspot, like come
Yeah,
in,
but
test your
why?
equipment.
If all these people say nothing paranormal's happened there,
Mhm. But the thing is, you cannot tell me, and any paranormal investigator will say the same thing. When you go in and disrupt a building and change it completely, you cannot tell me paranormal things do not happen, because
if
that's the thing
if
that
there's
stirs it all up,
but if there's already paranormal stuff there,
right?
right?
And that's the thing. And if it's there, they're not gonna spit it out saying that it's actually happened. They're gonna keep their lips tight because they don't want people coming in,
Then they shouldn't care if people are taking pictures outside the house.
and they shouldn't. Absolutely right, they shouldn't.
You know what I mean? It's pretty like I think about people that have these locations that are like I'm gonna use Rolling Hills for example.
Mhm.
Sharon, she went to an auction one day, auctioned to get this abandoned asylum, right? Didn't know what she was gonna do with it. Nobody
Mhm.
knew it was haunted. They were gonna like either destroy it or somebody was gonna buy it, and she bought it. It just so happens to be one of the most haunted asylums in the United States. You know what I mean? And she brings in a lot of people because of that,
Mhm.
whereas this house is being sold in the I don't know, in the limelight of it being the Amityville horror house. No matter
It's always gonna be there, it's never gonna go away.
right. So,
I
you
mean,
know,
it's doomed from the start.
I mean, I don't think for them to say it's not haunted or nothing happens to them. I mean, they've been there for how long? The previous owners, they've been there. They were
Since
there. They've been there.
2013
Yeah.
and, actually, there's 2017. Sorry, the last people there was 2017 till present, till they sell the house, obviously, but I just think that you're right, you should be able to take pictures,
I
and
mean, I believe that there could be spirits everywhere, but that doesn't mean that their house has to be haunted. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, you
I
know,
what I think to end all of it is to allow us to come in there and investigate it ourselves.
yeah, but that's not gonna happen
I know, but, that would be the
unless
end
somebody
all be
buys it
all
that is
to
in the
know that,
paranormal.
"Hey, we've been in there, we investigated." Like I said in the paragraph for today's show, like, all of us paranormal investigators would love to get in there if we had the opportunity to investigate that location. We would be able to cast our opinions, what's haunted, what's not haunted, do we come up with the same stuff? Whether I go in, you go in,
I don't think so.
or, I mean, it's one of those things. If we can get the same amount of stuff, same amount of data, evidence, whatever.
Sometimes, but again, I think people have different antennas. And that's why I think you and I could be sitting in a room and I could hear something and you don't because
Mhm.
my antenna. I think you have to be in the right place, the right time. Things have to be vibing. Whatever you want to call it, energies or whatever the case
You
may
have
be.
different energy. I have different energy.
I mean, I think that's just all, everything comes into play when you have an experience, who
Yeah, I
you're with.
agree.
Me and you could be somewhere, there might be a spirit that wants to talk to me, but they see you and you scare them because you're, big. And then they decide they don't want to talk.
Mhm.
We don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, and that's the fascinating part about all this is, you know, the public wants to know. I think the public deserves to know if it is haunted or not.
Yeah, but
You
that's
can't just lay all these charges out. You cannot take pictures. You cannot be in front of this house, across the street from the house.
I don't know
If you're
anybody.
putting
I don't know
all
anybody
that
that
stuff
owns
up,
out front of if they own something out front of their house, like the street, I want to know how they own it, because there's people that park directly in front of my house and I don't want them to park there. So
Yeah.
however they own out front of their house in the street,
What
how
about the
do we know?
neighbors? What about the neighbors?
What?
What about the neighbors? What if they take pictures? They could silently take pictures from their own house.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't.
You
But maybe
know,
they do. Maybe they do, but they keep them private, you know? I
it
mean,
could be. I mean, it's like that's the thing.
wait, if
That's
the
where the
house is
gray
for
area
sale,
is.
is if the house is for sale, is it on like Zillow?
I just searched it up in Google. I'm not
And
sure
it
what it
says
goes
it's
to.
for sale?
Yeah, it says it's for sale. Because I asked the question, is the house for sale? Because a few days ago, I was told that the house is for sale again. And I looked it up this morning. It says yeah, it is for sale for $1.7 million with an offer pending.
1000%. I agree with that.
So whether it's been sold at this point, because it was up for sale in November of last year,
And it's still for sale?
it hasn't said it's been bought yet. But truly, for a haunted location, so to speak, or not
And
haunted
alleged.
location, how long does that sale for a $1.7 million house? How long does that take to sell a house like that?
That's true. It is waterfront.
Hmm.
Um,
Waterfront, I believe
and
it's
it's totally
5,700 square
redone. I
feet.
mean, I'm
50,
sure they put a lot of money into it.
I'm
So,
sure they have. I mean,
yeah,
between 54 to 5,700 square feet. If you want to come to 3 levels in the basement, that's a big ass house.
it didn't look that big, but I guess they added on. See, I haven't
Mhm.
even, I think,
The-
I mean, if it's on Zillow and you can look inside the house anyway, why do they care if you stand out front and get a picture in front of it?
I'll have to take a look at Zillow and see if it's on there
Yeah, that'd be
and see if
interesting.
they give pictures of the inside. Now, if they don't give pictures on the inside, what's the point of looking? Oh, well, hey, that's a nice house. I think I'll
Right.
drop 1.7 and
Right. Yeah,
uh,
you would think they would have to, like, unless they're, like I said, if they're gonna be using the whole Amityville thing, for their advantage with this, then they shouldn't be not using it while they're there.
mhm. The most that house has been sold for was over $900,000. That's the most it's ever sold for. I know at one point that they were selling it for $3.6 million,
What?
and yeah, three
See,
point
to me,
six.
that's insane. To me, that is crazy. To me,
But it
that
only
is,
sold for 600,000 though.
yeah, because that's probably what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, and I was talking to a friend of mine today. It's like, it's like Jesus Christ, I would love to have that house, but I just want a sale price. Give me a good fair sale price. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you want to buy it, it's 1.7 million. But you know what? In actual reality, they're not going to get the full 1.7. I think it's going to sell for 700,000, if anything.
Well, it might sell for a little bit more, but I already had said Michelle. Who said this? Marsha. I said that. I said it's probably private showings. There's houses, the house in Gettysburg that I love that was 900,000, and then there's a house in Jersey for 25 million. They have to do a credit check. They need your bank records. They need to know that you're serious and can
Mhm.
afford to buy the house before they let you in. But how do you even know if you want to buy it if you can't at least see pictures of it online?
Right. Give us that
Like, why would you even
availability.
do that? And to me, that would be them using Amityville to their advantage to try to sell
Right.
this house. And if that's the case, then why all the years of them being there where they didn't want anybody anywhere
Uh,
near it?
Now, here's the other thing too is with them not taking pictures, so to speak, if there's not pictures, um, what if they're afraid to take pictures because of the paranormal photography that could come out of it? Like someone say, "Hey, I could see a figure in that room,"
Nah,
or "I could see there's an orb in that room." Oh, look, there's a shadow person that's just walking through that hallway.
I just think I think they just didn't want
They don't
their
want the
private
attraction.
people, and they didn't want when we were at Hinsdale and we were there for the weekend.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many people drove down to the property to take pictures of the house while we were there, just to take pictures of the house.
Right.
Now it's not closed off. It's closed off at the driveway, and you're not allowed to pull in and up to the house to take pictures, but you can pull down and turn around and get pictures.
Yeah.
But that's what those people would be going through. And nobody lives in the Hinsdale house. So
Right.
whatever, but people that live in this house day in and day out, they're like, I don't want that the attraction of that,
Hmm.
I mean, people all day long. Well,
Right.
when you buy a house like that,
You're
what do
gonna
you
get attention.
expect? What do you expect?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Get it out there. Get in the public. Let us know if it's haunted or not. If it's not haunted, we leave this property alone completely. Like it's
Well, they,
done.
they
Done
say it's
deal.
not, but they say it isn't, but people still believe it is, and people still go there and try to get pictures, and people still are convinced
I
that
mean, what if a psychic drives past that location? Because we all drive past certain houses, and you look at this house. Every day I drive to work, I go past a certain house. I get a feeling that there's something in that house that's haunted. Now, who's to say that a psychic doesn't feel the same way, or
Mhm.
another person feels the same way? We all get different feels about different locations.
Or you yourself could be getting a psychic impression from the
Yeah.
house. Doesn't mean that you're a psychic,
Mhm.
but you could be drawn to the house for a reason.
Right. Look at the movie. Here's a good example of the movie. The guy that goes over to uh fix the light on his boat. His wife gets out of the truck, looks at the house, gets freaked out, doesn't want to go anywhere near it, gets back in the car because she has bad feelings, bad intentions, there's something wrong with the house. You know what I'm saying?
And everybody knows what happened there.
Right.
So naturally, you've already had that imprinted in your mind,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
naturally, let's just say we could walk through the house. We're walking through the house. We're not thinking about the Lutzes. We're thinking about the DeFeos.
Hmm.
We're thinking about the people that were murdered in that house.
Yeah, and well, and also look at the Lutzes. They when they went in that house, they had the same beds that the kids and the mother and father were shot in.
Yeah, people just left everything. They
They
left.
left it. They flipped the mattresses over and just call it a day. I'm like, Jesus, get rid of that shit. Why would you want to move in a house? I mean, are you that poor? You bought this house. You're that poor to not get rid of the mattresses and put new mattresses in the house. You're gonna make your kids sleep on these mattresses or other people shot
Well, I
on
can't believe that
and blood soaked.
the police didn't take them because that's evidence.
Well, yeah, it's their DNA all built in those beds.
Yeah, I never heard that. I never heard that they used.
Yeah, they reused the beds.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's
So, I mean, right away, I mean, you're laying on a bed, it's got blood-covered stains from the murders, and you're sleeping on that. Okay, so, you wake up in the middle of the night screaming because you got this presence going on, at some point in time, I mean, there's a thing where you're sleeping, you're a dead sleep, and you wake up for no reason. They're saying that the spirit's, is looking at you, basically, you know? So, like I said, it's all about loss of time when the shots went off, to me, a paranormal moment, but others will
I
say,
honestly just think like people didn't hear it,
"No,
or maybe they heard the first one, thought it was like a car backfiring, or
well, yeah, but
who
you got
knows?
6
I mean,
shots going off, or actually, I think it was probably 8 shots that went off, if one of them got 2 bullets, so to
well,
speak.
David earlier was saying there was more than one gun, so
Yeah, but I think he was only used 1 and threw 1 away, but, I mean, so to speak, I mean, like I said, we're not there, so we don't know
we'll
if
never
he
know.
switched guns.
We'll never know.
We'll never know, and that's the thing is we'll never know. And that's the bad thing about history is that those are one of those things that we're just never gonna solve.
Well, I mean, if he told the truth,
If yeah, if he when he was alive, if
and,
he told the truth.
and people, we could, and detectives and police and stuff like that were able to put everything together, and he was honest,
Mhm.
then yeah, we would have facts, but
Did he ever go through a lie detector test, all those times?
I don't know. But you know what? The results of that aren't admissible in
They
court
can be
anyway.
manipulated. They can.
Yeah, they're not admissible
If
anyway.
you
So,
believe it enough that you didn't do it, yeah, they can manipulate it,
mhm.
convince yourself that you didn't do it.
but you can't even use that in court. Like that's not something. It's just something.
I thought they still could use that in court, or did they just
In
now?
some states they can, maybe, I don't know. I know
I
that
think so.
my
It
district.
might be up to the state that say yes, we're going to allow this in the defense or plaintiff type deal, but and that's the thing. I mean, and now, okay, so we've had all this happen with all the other families being in nursing. Nothing's haunted, nothing's going on in here. Okay, fine. Now,
I think if people were really having issues,
I think they would
there's
speak out about it.
plenty. Yeah, there's plenty of
It's enough to
paranormal.
scare the shit out of you.
Right. There's
You know,
plenty of paranormal groups that,
they've been in other locations that are a lot worse off than Amityville is.
and would reach out for help if it was that. You know what I mean? That's why
Right.
I'm like, I mean, if they were really experiencing stuff and it was bad enough to where, what it did to the Lutzes, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I really think that at some point in time we would have found out about it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Right. I
like
agree with Amy. I think he was. I think whatever was going on, and if he was on drugs, adds to the mental issues, whatever mental issues he had. And
Mhm.
you know, and then you add drugs on top of it. So yeah, of course his story is going to change. But I don't think he remembers what the hell happened. I don't think he really could piece it together himself. You
Yeah.
know,
So
and I'll be honest with you too. When the cops they interrogate and they can, I mean, for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, you know, you could confuse yourself. You can say things
that's
that you
true.
don't mean, like you don't know if then you're like, am I saying the right thing? Am I not saying the right? Like, what am I, what's going on? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
when you
So,
keep telling somebody yes, 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 and all of a sudden say no, and then it turns on you to say
right.
yes.
I mean,
you know?
but I do think he was crazy. And I think that's what it was. I don't think the house did it. I don't think, I think he was crazy. And, you
I
know,
think the sister was crazy too.
I think
So
they all had some sort of, because of their upbringing.
I
I
didn't
think
really
they
hear
all,
much about the mother. I think it's just because she was abused by the father,
well,
by the
yeah, but
husband a
but
lot.
think about that. That still is to be
And why would
suppressed.
you call that place called High Hopes to begin with?
But think about if you're being mentally, emotionally, and physically abused, you have mental issues. You have a
Well, it
mental.
means a mental stain on you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So she's not going to be strong enough to stick up for herself or her children,
Mhm.
and her children see that, and they're not going to be, they're going to, if mom's scared, they're scared,
Yeah.
and that's natural. And I'm sure all those years of abuse, no matter what it is, it could be verbal, emotional, physical, whatever it is.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. I mean,
I had to say it. I'm sorry. That sounded probably awful. TikTok. TikTok did it.
TikTok.
But, with all this happening, okay, so now you got Ronald dying in 2021. Okay. Now springs the speculation as to where did he go when he passed away?
Hell.
Do you think, well, a lot of people say he went to hell. Okay. But do you think he might have went back to that location at one point to figure out for himself, like, did I actually do this?
He knows he did it.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. Has anyone ever tried to communicate with him? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I wouldn't want to communicate with somebody like that. I wouldn't
I
want to
see, I would
communicate.
because I want to know what they think, you
Well,
know?
or a sociopath.
Well, and and I had this show before, serial killers and the paranormal, you know? Like, if you channel Ed Gein, you channel, Jeffrey Dahmer, you channel Butch DeFeo.
I think that people like that have no conscience. I think they have no soul when they die. So
Well, yeah, they're lost
I
soul,
don't think
basically.
people like that can be communicated with, nor would I want to, because they're sociopaths. They have there's no feeling, there's no conscience, there's no remorse, there's
Will
no
we put
care.
ourselves in danger though if we contact them? You think?
I don't think we would be able to, even
But
if
if
we
you do
tried.
it, I mean, what if we get the answers that we're all waiting for?
No.
That's what gets it for me. If I can muster up an answer that people are looking for, have been waiting for.
I would rather try to communicate with Abraham Lincoln or John F. Kennedy,
Yeah.
people like that, Marilyn Monroe, people like that, not,
Martin Luther King.
yeah, anybody, like people that were iconic, maybe people that, you know, Marilyn, how did you die? Like, what was the cause of your death? Was it an
That
accident?
one there was
You know,
that was a love triangle between two brothers and her.
I wouldn't want to, because I don't believe that their souls are worthy enough to still be on this earth, let alone I wouldn't want to communicate with anybody like that.
Mm.
I
And see
just wouldn't.
that's where I differ from you because I would want to try and see what I can get. I want to muster and see what I can get. Um, and at the museum, I try to muster as much as possible I get because there might be something that uh, people are waiting for to hear
Come
from
on, everybody wants to
themselves
come
as
in.
to what actually happened in their minds, what happened, what were they thinking when they did what they did, type of deal. Um,
But
you
then
can
again, that's
add
the
that
thing. Like,
to
a
huh?
sociopath doesn't have like a normal thought process like we do. Like they like they just. I mean, his like you said, his story changed so many times
Hmm.
because he's looking for that reason to maybe sound good enough for people to
Yeah,
accept when
I get that.
really when really there is none. I
I
mean,
always satisfy your story, and I satisfy your story. So let's stir the pot and satisfy your story.
right. And what is going to make me look better,
Hmm.
right? The house made me do it. Okay.
And
No.
and that's
No, no, no. You did you now, granted, years of abuse, you could blame the father, but the father didn't pull the trigger.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like the mental, you can blame the mental instability on the father, but the murders were him.
Hmm.
He did it. The house didn't do it. The gun didn't do it. You know, he did it.
Or in the help of Dawn too, was what I believe. But you know,
I don't think
and
she thought he would go that far.
yeah, she pushed him. I think in some ways, and in another, I think she pushed him to go that far because the argument they had earlier that day, the fight they had that day, pushed him over the limit.
Let's see.
Oops,
Oh,
sorry.
Darren, if you were a chance to be able to communicate with them, who is to say what they would communicate is the truth? Being right. That's true. I mean, if they weren't truthful while they were alive, what, you know,
And that's the thing. And that's
good point.
and it is a good point. I mean, it's like when we do our EVP sessions, we do it over and over and over and try and see if they can maintain that same answer every time. Well, then you got your answer. They haven't changed it. But if you ask it in a different kind of context way, you might be able to manipulate them to really get the answer out that you're looking for.
But is it the right answer? You never know.
And it is, yeah, if it's the right answer.
You'll
And
never know.
that's between them and where they're laying right now. So I don't know. In the end, I think this is where we're at, is that at this point in time, that we can say by all the stories within the last families that have all been there until until we investigate it ourselves, we'll know. But for now, we'll leave it as is. It's not haunted right now until we investigate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I don't think it is.
And I don't think we'll ever get to. Unless the state buys it.
Which,
can that happen though? And what would the state do with it? Do you think the state would demolish it?
I don't know. Well, I'm not. I don't know.
I mean, that's a lot of history there if you're just going to demolish it. So if you're going to demolish it, let's say, so to speak, if the state buys it and they decide, well, let's demolish it, get rid of this bad eye of Long Island, get rid of it. Okay, well, if you're going to do that and you're going to go that far, then I would dig into the land and see if you can start finding, Indian burial mounds or somewhere else on the property, and see if you can find John Ketchum if he's out there, so to speak, type of deal. Go further, go all the way. That's what I say. If you want to truly clear that land of anything, all the imprints and all that stuff, obviously you're not going to go into the river because some bodies might have, flushed into the river, so to speak.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I would do. Start over. But that's a lot of history.
Well,
So,
it's a lot of
lot of pain,
it's a lot of
a lot of bloodshed.
it's not a lot of factual history. I mean, the only facts we know with the DeFeos are
The murder.
he shot. Yeah, we know he shot them, and why he did it.
And the
isn't
fact that the
true.
Lutzes left after 28 days.
Yeah, and then even like we said, Dan has a different account as to what Chris has. You know what I mean? The Lutzes. So Dan Lutz, his story of what happened is different than what Christopher says.
And I'm sure that the sister has a completely different story. If you
Well,
like
she
you said,
checked
she was.
herself into a convent,
That's
so
what I
who
mean.
knows
So
what
what is her story?
right?
Whose stories does she matches, or does she fall right smack in the middle of a whole different side of other things?
I mean, I could see, not experiencing anything, but if your stepdad is that evil of a person to where he's in the basement trying to conjure up demons and doing satanic rituals and scaring the shit out of people and abusive and verbal and all this and that. I mean, I can see how just that alone can push somebody to. Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. If there is anything paranormal here, I mean, paranormal wise, there.
I mean, it could have just wore off and just
Yeah. I
vanished
mean,
into
if
thin
it's
air.
there in
I
the
mean,
land,
what about the Exorcist house? I mean, do you think
Eris?
that was a cat, by the way?
Yeah, he's hitting Roscoe. Roscoe's sitting there minding his own business.
Well, that could be my cat. They chase after each other, but
And
my
he's
other
being-
one, he likes to knock
he's
shit
being
over and
bullied.
break stuff.
He wants to snuggle, and I think Roscoe, oh, Eris, don't you? He's giving him a skippity pat.
Oh yeah. But I mean, like I said, I mean this story fascinates me just because there's just no end in sight as to we just have to leave it where it's at right now, deemed it's not haunted until we can find the actual truth if it is.
Look at you being a bully.
I mean, April Busette could have a different reaction to the place if she drives by it, So
You saying hi to Darren? What are you doing? What's this? Is this you?
But in hindsight, I mean, this is, like I said, this is a good story. I like this topic. I think many other people like this topic. And it's one that's can keep going back to have new facts and actual things come out, later on down the pipeline. Who knows? But I wanted just to get this story out a little bit more. For those of you that haven't, you've only known me for a couple of years, and so I've done a similar story on this with my friend Roland Gerodius. We did this on the Freaky Squeaky. You can find that on Raven Rose Paranormal. So if you like this story a lot, you can go into that and relive it all
I
over
mean,
again.
do you think kind of the Amityville story is dying out?
There's so many stems and so many different movies. Uh, I'm surprised they haven't come up with a freaking TV show. Because if you look at The Exorcist. How many episodes or how many movies are there of The Exorcist? There's a reboot that's gonna be this year, but they had on Fox, I wanna say 5 years ago? I think it was 2017. They had an Exorcist series, okay? So now you built the movie, now you made a TV show about the movie. You got this guy performing exorcisms and all that stuff. You created a show about it. I'm surprised they didn't create a show about the Amityville. I'm surprised they haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I don't.
They do all sorts of documentary series, shock docs, all that stuff with the Warrens and
Yeah, I'm not sold on all of those houses. I mean, I mean, no disrespect to anybody that, has investigated or has been a part of stuff because I'm good friends with Carl Johnson, who was, working with the Warrens and everything. And I
they're actually supposed to go do the Amityville Horror House, but they end up giving it to the Warrens, I believe.
right, right. Well, they initially were contacted by them.
Right, right. They end up taking over the Conjuring House, correct?
They didn't take it over, but they were part of it.
Or
Oh,
did
you're
they
talking
get
about the
or did they
Warrens?
get pushed away from the Warrens on that one too?
Yeah, I think it was kind of, don't quote me on that, but so I respect Carl. I
Mhm.
respect him to the fullest, and but for me personally, I don't think that those those homes that have been so in the spotlight like that, like the Exorcist house, and you know um things like that. Like I just
Somebody's talking to you.
I just let her out. Now she wants to come back in. She's like me. She can't make up her mind. What do you want, baby? Come on. What? What? I'm trying
Yeah.
to do a show.
I like I said, I personally like this story because
What do you
it's
want?
just you hear stuff so much here and there and here and there, and I'm waiting for new stuff to pop out, new documentaries, new side angles of things, new way of thinking of things on this subject that could possibly tie up some more loose ends type of deal.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, when you look at those two houses, I mean, that stuff happened how long ago?
back in the
You know,
70s.
yeah, and you know,
Just
both.
imagine being a paranormal investigator back in the 70s.
Well, I mean, okay, look at the Entity. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen that?
Yep. That's a
That
famous movie.
movie is the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. That scares me. That is scares me.
Yeah.
To what and that was based on true events.
I
And
can't say much because E.T. scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, so
E.T.
E.T. did, yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved E.T. I wanted one.
Hell, I was so scared my parents still gave me a sleeping bag of ET on it. I'm like, "Why did you give me this?"
Oh my god, I loved E.T.
But now look at me now. I do the paranormal field.
But I think though that those houses are just, I mean, it's like it's like the JFK files, right? We're old enough to still care about it. Like, okay,
Mhm.
when are we going to have all the files come out? But like it's just, and it's been, there's so much coming out now where oh, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. It's kind of like little by little tearing the story of the house away. Where
Mhm.
here it's just murders happened there. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people think that the Sharon Tate house is haunted because of the murders. A lot of people are probably going to think that that Idaho house is haunted because of the murders that were there.
Oh, with
Yeah, I mean,
the
wherever there's
teacher
a
and stuff.
huge, yeah, Wherever
Yeah,
there's a
that'll
traffic
take some
jam.
time though. I personally, when stuff like that happened so recently, when was that? November,
Uh, was that October or November? Yeah, something like
somewhere
that.
around that timeline. For a house to be, I don't think a house gets haunted that fast with murders like that. I think for something like that, it takes time. It takes imprinting the house to soak up as to what happened because houses have memories. And maybe in a year and a half or so, something might show up. Who knows?
Who
I
knows?
don't think they'll let anybody investigate the house paranormal wise for 5, 10 years down the road. I don't think they will
Or ever.
or ever.
It might not ever be a thing.
Hmm.
I mean, Gettysburg, 50,000 casualties in 24 hours. I mean, people look at that like that's like there's a lot of people that will say, "Oh my God, it's so horrible. Why would you investigate there?" I just pick up on bad stuff.
I would say something like that would happen a lot sooner because of how many deaths in so many
But I'm just
period of
saying, like,
time.
I don't pick up on anything bad there.
Yeah.
I pick up on the fact that they love being honored still to this day, with the visitors. And I think a lot of people that go there bring that
Their
adrenaline
energies are
here.
positive. I
Yeah.
don't think they come with negative energy because we all know if you come with negative energy to a haunted location and you're looking for that negativity, you're gonna find it because that's what you're looking for.
Or you're gonna think whatever happens is negative
Yeah. And
automatically.
if you find the negativity that you're finding, you're not necessarily gonna like it what you find either. You
Mm-mm.
know,
I'm Casper only.
so and that's important when you go
I'll
to
take Slimer.
these haunted locations that you gotta go with positive energy. Um, because like if you go to Bill's location in Broadhead, he pretty much enforces it. You come in with positive energy. Because if you come in with horrible energy and your day is gone to shit, well, then you might as well just stay home because the spirits aren't gonna play with you if you got terrible energy.
Well,
They're
not only
gonna
that, but
quiet up and go away.
you don't want to attract it. Likes
And
attract
you don't wanna
likes.
attract a negative spirit or a grumpy old man to slap you in the face, you know?
Or leave it there.
Or leave it there. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So and that's a I love it that he says that right away. "You come into my building, you better be happy. If you're not, don't even bother coming," you know?
Yeah.
And I like
Well,
that.
and that's one of the things, like, and I told Destination Fear, the people, the guys, I said, that's one of the things why I disagree what they do, because they get themselves all worked up and afraid, and they face, and then they go and investigate. And I don't think that that is
Sometimes, yes, I don't think things
appropriate.
through.
So, I mean, they are awesome. You know what I mean? But the
Eh,
show, the way that they do it, I don't agree with. I would never do it. But they're
and see,
awesome.
that's where me and you differ because I like how they try different things, they go as far as they can go, but in the same instance, yes, they have done things that they shouldn't have done. They, like this last season, okay, I understand that you wanna go to a location, but take away the flashlight, you're gonna risk yourself falling down the stairs, hurting yourself, whatever. Come on.
Yeah,
That's just you don't need to take away a flashlight. I mean,
right.
that's your source. I mean, what happens if somebody in dire need gets sick and they
Yeah.
run out of that room and they have nowhere besides their camcorder light? They're gonna run themselves into a damn pillar and knock themselves out.
Hmm.
So, but I do like most of the times with those shows, I can't stress enough that yes, I like the kids in it. I think the kids do fine and all that stuff, but I also mainly look at for the locations and see if it's something that I could possibly get into those locations because I
Hmm.
find them interesting. So that's number one is the locations.
I would
Two,
try to find
how
the diamonds in the rough that nobody knows about. I don't
You
want the
know,
ones that have been on TV. I want the ones that nobody knows about.
come to Washoe County Historical Museum. Diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Come to our locations. Get a hold of me for paranormal investigations and tours. I will get you set up and ready to go because I am the booker. So
You're the hooker.
booker,
Oh.
not a hooker, booker. So, yeah, if you guys, if anybody wants to get to the Washoe County Historical Museum, please contact me through Messenger or send me a message on my.
Say it a little slower.
Can't.
Why? If I didn't know, I wouldn't know what you said.
I could go a little slower.
All right, do it faster.
No.
What's the name of the place?
So the place is the Washoe County Historical Museum in Watoma, Wisconsin. It's a gem. It's got all sorts of spirits in there to come in and investigate, talk to them, have a lot of fun with them. They like playing with the toys and our paranormal gear that we use. Come there. Leave me a message in my messenger. You can leave me a cell phone text to say, hey, I want to do a paranormal investigation. Do that as well. Or if you're in Wisconsin, I want to do a tour. Let me know. I can get that set up. What else?
Thank you, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. I had the screen small, so it's hard for me to read it. But on February 11th, 2023, Saturday, we're having a Valentine's investigation at the Washoe County Historical Museum in Watoma, Wisconsin. 2 groups, one at 6 to 9 p.m., the other one from 10 to 1. If you want to stay for both, you can stay for both. And Nick Simons and Aaron G. Thompson from 28 Days Haunted off of Netflix are going to be there in attendance. And
That's
it is
cool.
a donation of $30 in cash at the door, please. And that's about it. And I will remind you during the week later on. So
I like Nick. Nick was cool.
Nick is great. He's a nice guy.
I don't know Eric. I did not. On the interview with him, I liked Nick. I want to actually reach out and have him on the brew because I thought the interview was pretty good. He's
pretty
a
funny
cool
guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
Lots of stuff. He's got high energy. Aaron's got a lot higher energy. So I'll have to have Aaron on at some point too and do another interview with him and but there's and also before I forget, there is going to be a
Ooh.
1 hour 5 to 6 Q&A with those guys as well.
I hope I'm saying this right. Gennaro. If I'm saying that wrong, please correct me. He said, I used to live around the block from the Amityville house. They remodeled it since the film and the windows look different. I
they're
live
square.
about 20 minutes away from it now.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, the windows are square now.
So okay. So my question is it real? Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't walk by it. You can't stand in front of it. You can't take pictures. Like, it's just, to me, is like, I want to be able to do that so people can't park in front of my house. Then if they can do that, why can't I do that?
Right? Who wants those scumbags around our houses, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. Here he said, the owners hate when people do it though. I mean, to me, that's so, like, you knew what you were buying.
Mm-hmm. Gotta expect it.
You knew you were buying. You knew what you were buying.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect?
Yeah. Hell, if I lived there, I'd say, fine. You want to come in? Give me $5,000. You can come in. I'll make some way to make money off it.
$5,000.
Sure, you live in New York. Everything's high priced as it is.
Yeah, but that's like upstate New York, right? I mean, isn't that upstate?
Yeah,
New
that's
York?
upstate. Yeah, Long Island's a lot of the
Oh, it's in Long
Very
Island?
ritzy. It's on Long Island, yeah.
Oh, then that's not upstate. I was thinking it was upstate, but I don't know.
I thought that was considered upstate. I don't know. I'm not from New York, so I don't know. So, but
Yeah, right. It's just it's insane to me why you would buy a house like that and then turn around and just complain and bitch and make it so people can't even take a picture
mhm,
outside of it. I mean,
yeah.
I can't tell you how many people came when we were at Hinsdale House, how many people came down and took pictures of the house and turned around. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, we'll look at the Lizzie Borden house. They charged 22. I think is it 22,000 or 2,200 for 8 hours.
that's insane.
Yeah, and there's murders done there. So
And but
why would this
apparently
be any different?
well, I mean, but people say that the Bordens aren't there.
Mhm.
Nobody's ever
I
has
think they're still there. If they want to charge that kind of money, might as well be there.
if they want to charge that kind of money, like I better have a spirit making me a whiskey and a whiskey drink and sitting down and talking some spirits with me.
Well, like I said, that's for 8 hours. Okay.
That's
N-
insane.
Well, if you go to the Sheboygan Asylum up by me, it's 2,400 for 12 hours.
Right. There is no law, but apparently there's people that have gone there and have gotten in trouble because they've taken pictures
Hmm.
outside of the house
Yeah,
on
I've
the
seen
street,
that within the
So
last year or two. I've seen that they
yeah.
getting after people.
That's what I said. They don't own the street. I don't know how they can get people in trouble for that.
Right? They're saying, "Oh, they're creating problems. They're over here standing looking at my house." I mean, are
Nobody's
they going to
I mean,
come into my house? Is that the next step? Is they've gotten to
what do they
the
consider?
sidewalk? Is it the next step to get across the street and be actually in front? In front?
What is it? Do they consider it loitering? I don't know. I mean, people are just taking if somebody's just getting a selfie really quick, like how can they like how can you how do you get somebody in trouble for that?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything to make money, I guess. Really.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was a
Thank you,
eh,
Gennaro, for joining. I wish you were
yeah,
here earlier.
I'll catch that on the
Because
replay because I run down the like
well,
I
I
said,
mean, because he lives
yeah,
right there. He
absolutely.
he's lived there. So, it would have been I wish he was here from the beginning. Maybe we could have got a
Yeah.
little bit of info.
Well,
Um,
I mean, he can also comment after the show's done too, as he can catch my beginning, middle, end type deal of timeline of stuff when stuff has happened, so to speak. So,
yeah.
um, but like I said, was a good conversation, good topic feed.
So wait, can
Um,
I just ask Gennaro one thing?
sure, go
Um,
ahead.
do people that live in that vicinity, do those people believe that the Amityville house is haunted? Like, is that like talk in town that's like, or do the people that live near there, do they hate the attention that the house brings? Or, I don't know. I mean, I don't live near a house that like that, I mean, the
She lives
Amityville
in
house
Philly.
is known worldwide. You know what I mean? Like, well, maybe not world, but nationwide, right? I mean, I would think people in the UK know about
Oh
Amityville.
yeah, it's worldwide.
Most don't care. He said depends on the person, but most don't care.
Yeah. And, I'm sure that besides the Amityville house, I think there's other locations in that area that do take the spotlight away from the house, being haunted type deal, because there's other haunted locations, you know, close to there.
I just don't think I personally don't think it is haunted. I think it's
Yeah, it's the one to remain in mystery.
I know, and that's why we decided to have the show because Darren thinks it's haunted and I don't.
Right, right. So, yeah, good cop, bad cop, and these are the type of discussions I do like having because we can show different variations of what we're talking about and what you talk about and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people like that sort of thing and want to chime in on what they think because this show is geared to the audience and their comments and have their opinions. And that's why I like doing shows like this. So
You know what? Next time I'm anywhere near there, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get a selfie in front of that house.
There you go.
I'm
There
gonna
you go.
do it.
I'll get an air selfie. I'll
I'm
bring it
gonna
up.
do it.
I'll bring it up on the internet and kind of put my picture in the picture.
I'm gonna do it.
I don't have enough money to go out there.
What do you mean? Oh, you live far away. Yeah.
I live in Wisconsin. It
I'm
costs too
I'm
much to drive out there and
I'm
fly
not
out
that
there.
far. I'm like,
Yeah, you live by Rocky Balboa.
huh?
You live by Rocky Balboa.
Do you know in the cemetery in Philly, um, where in the movie they had Adrian's, funeral?
Mhm.
They still have her headstone in the cemetery. She's not there. Nobody's
Yeah.
buried there, but they left the headstone in the cemetery, and you see Adrian Balboa. So yeah, it's one of the headstones in
Yeah.
that cemetery in Philly.
Anything for publicity.
Well, hey, there's a lot of people buried in that cemetery. Harry Callis is buried in there. General Meade's buried in there. There's a lot of famous people buried in that cemetery.
I believe it. I believe
And the ghost of Adrian Balboa is,
it.
is
Right.
buried in that cemetery.
So, Taryn, this was a good subject, good topic tonight. I'm hopefully everybody had a good time in chat and learned a little bit of history and how instead of starting at the murders, you can start at everything happened up to the murders and that sort of thing. And so, for those of you don't know, I'm gonna take a break after tonight's show. I have one last thing on Thursday for promoting another location and their events, but after that, I'm gonna take a month off. So just to kind of change things up a little bit, get some different topics, maybe you know, um, that sort of thing. But you might see me on other shows that people might have me on. I have a couple that are coming up, so I will post those when they do happen. But other than that, yeah, we're just gonna take a break, and you'll
Well,
see Taryn.
Paranormal Brew is still going.
Yeah, Paranormal Brew. It's just the paranormal question of the day is just taking a break.
Yeah, Paranormal Brew will be
Um,
on every Wednesdays. I am doing some Sundays at 8:30. If
right.
anybody missed it, I interviewed Dallin Spratt from Ghost Brothers last night, which that was an awesome interview. He's amazing. He's awesome. And I'm booked until March 22nd, I believe, every Wednesdays. And I have some Sundays in there. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Paranormal Brew.
And
We
Wednesdays, what time do you have it at? Oh, you change it
8:30
okay.
to 8:30, yeah. So 8:30 on Wednesdays, 8:30 on Sundays, but Sundays aren't all the time. It's just, my little squeeze-ins.
Right.
April, the psychic housewife of New Jersey, will be coming on in the future on a Sunday night. So I have Rochelle and Brian from the new Ghost Hunters. Now they do the Rochelle. They're so cute.
Okay.
They'll be coming on. So yeah, I have a lot of cool guests coming up.
Yep. And then with me being off for a month, they'll give me time to set more guests and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I just need a break. I get
I'm having a show coming up, which I'm really looking forward to. But I have 3 people that have researched different triangles. So a Bermuda Triangle, the Alaskan Triangle, and the Bridgewater Triangle.
What about the Great Lakes Triangle?
Okay, I just found out about this the other day. My friend Mark was like, "What about the Great Lakes Triangle?" I go, "What? There's another one?"
Yeah.
I
There's
didn't even
another
know
one.
that.
Yeah. I
So
just heard about that within the last 2 years.
yeah, I just found out about it like 2 days ago.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious what they all have in common too. So
So it's interesting. We will discuss that. But
yes. So tune in to Taryn shows on Wednesdays and Sundays. And with that, that's Taryn. I'm Darren. And you have been watching the Paranormal Brew and BB3 TV networks. And if you do not have Facebook, please join us on the MGS Paranormal YouTube channel as well. And if you want to be on BB3 TV and Paranormal Brews YouTube channel for her shows as well, join her there. And with that,
I'm gonna go live on TikTok too.
on TikTok, yeah, I might incorporate that too a little bit. So with that, I bid you all adieu. You all have a great rest of your, oh, what do you say, up to spring, winter, spring type deal, and I will be back soon. So no
Bye.
reason to miss me too much.
Toodaloo, mother beeps. Toodaloo.
So long, everybody.
Yes.